Ladies and gentlemen, yes, this is favorite show, Sports Unfolded, with your favorite hosts, Eric and Ron.
Hey, welcome to Sports Unfolded, NFL Power Rankings for Week 7. I am your host, Eric. Main man over there, Ron, how are you? Messed me up because earlier when we did the show, you were on the opposite side.
Yes. Was it today that we did the hockey?
I feel like
I
we
don't
did.
even
It's like
remember.
deja vu.
I
It's like deja vu.
don't
It's like
know.
we're doing this all over again. So
I
each
don't
week
know.
we put out our NFL Power Rankings, our top 5. And then on this show, we also give you our 3 biggest stars of the previous week that just happened, which would be Week 7. So we'll start off right away with the rankings, get into how we got to those decisions. And this was the list this week. So at number 5, you have the Dallas Cowboys. At 4, the New York Giants. At 3, the Kansas City Chiefs. At 2, the Philadelphia Eagles. And the number 1 team, the Buffalo Bills. A lot of controversy when it came to 1, 2. Also, the Giants, but we'll explain how we got there soon enough.
I just don't think there should be any controversy, to be honest with you. Look, be as it may, New York Giants is on this list. They are more consistent than anybody not on the list.
Yeah, it's just been, again, a strange year. We talked about this during the NHL rankings. Just some teams that you wouldn't expect to be there. And I had a tough time. The New York Jets, I almost put in. Minnesota Vikings, again, one of those 5-1 teams, but just didn't do enough. So let's discuss those Dallas Cowboys. They're 5-2. They're the 5th team. 29th offensively, but 6th defensively. So I gave them some edge on the defense. Points allowed, only 2. They're 2nd in points allowed in the league. And I looked at their losses. So they had 2 losses, which were Tampa Bay and Philadelphia. So Tampa Bay, again, kind of that in-between team right now, but we know what they're capable of. And Philadelphia, obviously the undefeated team, still left in the league. But quality wins. They beat the Giants. They beat the Rams. They beat Cincinnati. So they deserve to be on this list. They beat some good teams. Maybe not top teams, but good teams. Kept them on this list. And again, defensively, one of the best teams in the league right now.
Absolutely.
So let's talk. Kenny wanted to bring up the Giants. Yuck. Huh? So I'm going to explain to you why the New York Giants made this list. At 6-1, if you look at their numbers overall, offensively 20th, defensively 19th, points for 19th, 6th again in points allowed, plus 20 in the point differential. But their only losses to Dallas, who's on this list as well. Quality went Tennessee, Green Bay, Baltimore, and Jacksonville when Jacksonville was playing good football. So they have 4 good wins, 4 solid wins. Again, you throw in the Carolina, Chicago as the other 2 teams they've beaten, but look what Chicago just did this week to New England. Again, no team this year seems like they're a pushover. The New York Giants have consistently stayed in 1 games late, which is a good sign of a good quality team. They've been down in most of their games and come back and won in the 4th quarter. That's a sign of a very good team.
Yeah, and we're looking at a team, and yes, we are. We all criticize, Daniel Jones and his abilities, but you also have to look at, well, who are his receivers?
Yeah, he's got some of the worst receivers in the league this year, and he's still putting up
He's
good
got
numbers.
nobody there, and he's still managing the game, still getting it to players, get the chains moving. Yes, a lot of it is on Barkley. Yes, a lot of it is because of that defense. But mind you, that defense wouldn't be so good if they were on the field the whole game. And we as New England fans can attest to that because they have a really good defense. But if they're going to be out there on the field the whole game, then it doesn't do you any good because they're going to get tired.
Yeah,
And
if your
the
team's
Giants
going
are
3 and out,
controlling
yeah.
the game. They're controlling
Yeah,
the game.
Yeah, if your team's going 3 and out and your defense continues to have to try to
Right.
stop another team, great point. And I would say this too, Brian Dable, Coach of the Year candidate, because if you think about what he's been able to do with the same cast of talent that they had last season,
Yeah.
he's turned this
Oh,
organization around.
It's hands down the winner right now.
Right now, if it was going to end,
yeah,
be Coach of the Year.
Absolutely. It wouldn't even be a question.
Again, very interesting. Just the fact that they're on the list, and I think nobody's giving them credit. Nobody wants to believe it.
Nope.
And I think that's where the problem is so far this season. There's no Tampa Bay. There's no Green Bay on this list because they're just not playing good football. Cincinnati's been inconsistent. The AFC West, which we thought was going to be this great division this year, one team has made it, and it's the one team that we expected to be there because they've been the most consistent team year in, year out for the last few years.
Right.
And that's the third place team, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
So the Kansas City Chiefs are 5-2, second overall offensively, 25th defensively, which we knew they were going to still have some issues defensively. Number 1 in points for. They are the highest scoring team in the league when it comes to scoring. 25th in points against. Plus minus differential of plus 51. They are beating teams. The games they have won, they've won big.
And you think about their schedule, Eric. I mean, you think about they have the hardest schedule out of all the teams that are on this list.
I would agree with you. I would agree with you.
Between the teams in their division, they've had to play San Francisco, Buffalo,
Tampa
Bay. I mean, you're talking.
Yeah, so one bad loss, that was that loss to Indianapolis. But again, very good wins against, again, the Chargers, Tampa Bay, Las Vegas, San Francisco. These are all good teams. They lost, their second loss was to Buffalo, who, again, we all agree right now is the best team in the league. So you look at it, and again, it wasn't a blowout. I think they lost 24-20 if I remember that correctly. Kansas City, look, this AFC is going to come down to Kansas City, Buffalo.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would put my money on that. The NFC is wide open. NFC is wide open. Kenny agrees. Hey, we got one good one on there.
Yeah, I don't know what he agreed to though. I mean,
I don't know. We're going to wait because our NBA rankings will be out today as well. Philadelphia is our number 2 team. And this is where some people would really say, look, they're 6-0, they're unblemished. How can a team be ahead of them? And again, top 5 in every major statistical category, 5th offensively, 4th defensively, 4th in points for, 4th in points against. 2nd overall in the scoring differential, they're a plus 56. So you go, I don't understand, Eric, how the Philadelphia Eagles can be at number 2. Again, I want to look at some of the quality of the wins. They've beaten Detroit, Minnesota, Washington, which is not a very good team, Jacksonville on the back end now of that, Arizona up and down, and they've beaten Dallas. So I'd say 2 quality wins would be Dallas and Minnesota. The other 4, they're good, but not teams that I would hold and put them ahead of a Buffalo Bills team that's basically dominated in every statistical category possible.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Look, right now, it looks like Philadelphia is going to be the team to beat in the NFC. But when you look at that division, how we thought it was going to be possibly one of the worst, it is, in fact, one of the best, because you have 3 contenders in there. And, I mean, if the Giants, play like they are now through the whole season, this is going to be an interesting playoff season because you're looking at 2 teams that are probably better than the rest of that conference are going to be wild cards, and they're going to be on the road.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And again, 3 AFC NFC teams from the East on this list this week. This is 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row. They're staying consistent and playing good football. And again, Philadelphia, big trade yesterday, bringing Robert Quinn, the defensive end.
Yep.
So they're adding even more talent, which should keep them ahead of some of these other teams in the NFC.
Yeah, when you can add a piece and it almost flies under the radar when you think about all the news in the NFL. I mean, it wasn't really put out there, because everybody's talking about, Tom Brady still berating his offensive line and, and some of these other stories like Tua coming back. And it's almost like it's not even real. So it gets swept under the carpet. Nobody even notices. We notice, but it wasn't like big headlines out in the sports world that they picked them up, and that's going to be another big piece, and it just further deepens that team, and it's going to make it very difficult to beat them.
Yeah, because they were already very good defensively. Look, they're the 4th best defensive team in the league, and points against 4th. They don't give up a lot, and they don't let you score a lot. And now you just add that to that arsenal. And Jalen Hurts, I would say this: we talked about Coach of the Year possibly, right, for Dable, and with the Giants. Jalen Hurts is an MVP candidate in my eyes on what he's able to do and how he's been able to progress this season.
I mean, right now there's only really 3 guys that I can lean towards that have the advantage, and that are the 3 quarterbacks of basically these top 3 teams.
Yeah. Yep. No, great point. So let's talk about how Buffalo is the number 1 team, how they got ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles, even with that 1 loss. The number 1 offensive team in the league, the number 1 defensive team in the league, 2nd in points for, so they scored just here under Kansas City. Number 1 in points allowed. They do not give up. They give up the least amount of points. They are a plus 95 in the point differential, which is number 1. At number 2, it was Philadelphia 56. That's 40-point difference. That's a 40-point difference. They are just dominating across the board.
That's more than 5 points a game when you think about it.
Well, more than 5 because there's 7 games. They've played 6 games.
Yeah, so we're looking at almost 7 points. It's a touchdown better than anybody else.
Just dominating. Quality wins too. Beat Baltimore, beat Kansas City. Tennessee's a good team. They beat the Rams. Pittsburgh, and they had that 1 bad loss to Miami. But again, just across the board, how do you stop them? You can't stop. You say, okay, well, if we hold them to point, they hold you to, no point. So Jim Kelly is somewhere dancing. Only if, Kenny, they get to the Super Bowl and win it. They need to get that monkey off their back.
Yeah, going to the championship game and losing that game is not enough.
And they said the big win in, beating Kansas City. If this comes down to them in the AFC championship game, they get that home as long as the records are equal. So
look, he has to lose 5 Super Bowls to be better than Jim Kelly. Has to lose 5 Super Bowls.
I can't.
Or win 1.
Yes, he wins 1. He automatically goes ahead of him, which is pretty remarkable. But again, teams that I want to talk about real quick too. The New York Jets, very close to being on this list. Minnesota, again, needs to continue to win. But again, offensively, defensively, just not putting up what they need to do. So people will question some of that list. And the New York Jets, to me, honestly, if they have a big win against New England this week, I could very well see them on this list because they've put up some good numbers. Very solid. As crazy as it sounds, as crazy as it seems, we could have both New York teams on this list next week.
That would be something.
Right? Who would have ever thought that? Let's bring that list up one more time.
I'm in bizarro world right now.
I just don't know. And we talked about it even with the NHL. We're going to have the Chicago Blackhawks could possibly be on the list next week. So Dallas Cowboys at 5, New York Giants 6-1 at 4, Kansas City Chiefs 5-2 at 3, 6-0 Philadelphia Eagles at 2, and clear-cut number 1 team this week 5-1 Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, this is the list right here. This is your top 5 teams in the league. I don't think right now there is any doubt. Now, do I feel that some of these teams can be had? Of course they can. Anybody can be beaten. And obviously, the more susceptible teams are going to be Dallas and New York. But if they're going to keep playing like they are, I don't see it changing.
Yeah, it's
and I don't know. I don't know the schedule offhand of both teams, but like I know they're not playing the 3 teams above them.
No, and I know the New York Giants have a very easy schedule the next 3 weeks where they should basically be 9-1 going into, I think, their next big game.
Wouldn't that be something?
Won't make the Lakers will not be on the NBA. Kenny is already predicting the Lakers will not be on the NBA rankings list. I'm glad to hear that, Kenny, because I was getting a little worried. Oh,
Ron, they're going to make a list, all right.
Maybe we'll do the bottom 5 teams. That could be an interesting list. Let's talk about some of the stars that we enjoyed this past week in Week 7. Who are your 3 biggest stars, Ron? Who was your number 3?
My number 3 has to go to Kenneth Walker III. Look, the LA Chargers rolling in, it almost felt like it was a gimme. You figure the Chargers easily have this win, but guess what? Kenneth Walker III ran all over them for 167 yards, 7.3 average. 7.3 average. You just give him the ball twice and that's it. It's over. 2 touchdowns with a big win. Can you believe Seattle's in first place?
That's what I was going to say. I was just going to say there. In that division, you're talking about the Rams, Arizona, and San Francisco, the Seattle Seahawks, after losing Russell Wilson, the number 1 team in the NFC West right now.
And Geno Smith
doesn't make sense this year.
He has risen to the occasion. Like everybody counted out Seattle, and myself included. I think I had them with like 2 wins, 3 wins tops. And Geno Smith, who is my backup on my fantasy football team, and he did not perform for my fantasy league like he has for Seattle. We'll just put it that way. I took a big loss against a bad team.
Yeah, you got to win, though, right? And that's what he's doing. Kenneth Walker III was actually my honorable mention. I was going to put him in, but honorable mention. At 3 for me, I actually have a twofer. I went Tyler Boyd, Jamar
You're
Chase.
just trying to put as many people in there as you can. Get out of here with your
let's turn into 6.
Honorable mentions, twofers, 3 stars. You get 3. 3.
I couldn't compare Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, and the receiving that the 2 of them had. Both had 8 catches. Boyd, 155 yards and a touchdown. Jamar Chase, 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Clearly, both of them, you put up, that's 285 yards of receiving yardage from those 2 wide receivers, 16 catches. I went those 2.
And Kenneth Walker was better than both of them.
How do you figure that?
167 yards by himself.
155 yards receiving. It's so close.
It's 12 yards less.
That's not that much. My number 2, running back, Josh Jacobs, 20 carries, 143 yards.
How is he behind Kenneth Walker?
3 touchdowns. He had 1 more touchdown.
Did he win?
3 touchdowns. Yes, they won. No, they did not.
Exactly.
No, they did win. Yes, they beat Houston. Yes, they did win. 38-20.
Oh, yeah, Houston. That's right.
Big win.
Yeah, big win.
Davis is back.
Ooh,
Vegas is back.
Houston.
Josh McDaniels, Coach of the Year.
Yeah. Okay.
Who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Patrick Mahomes. Not only did he have to be on the road, but it was on the road against San Francisco with help from McCaffrey, who actually had a pretty good game himself, especially considering being on a brand new team. But Patrick Mahomes, all he did was go for 423, 3 touchdowns and a pick, 132.4 QBR rating.
Yep.
And said, you know what, San Francisco, you're not good enough yet.
Not yet. They're not in that class yet. Very good one. But I went number 1 up that quarterback play. Joe Burrow, 34 for 42, 481 yards, 3 touchdowns, QBR of 138.2, better than Mahomes. But
absolutely.
Again,
that's why he was my number 1.
Absolutely.
He was my number 1 as well. But didn't he have that in the first half?
Yeah, he just
and then
the 2 wide receivers.
They took him out because it was over already.
It's just unreal. Think about this: the top 5 passes last week: Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and then you ready for this? Andy Dalton, Trevor Lawrence, and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah,
those were the top passing.
How many of those won?
2 of 3. 2 of 5. Sorry, so 3 of them lost. Dalton, Lawrence, and Garoppolo lost.
Right. So what does that tell you about those teams? That tells me that they're not good.
It's also said if you look at the running backs, 4 out of the 5 won their games that were the top 5 rushing. Right. Run the ball, control the clock, don't give the other teams chances to score. That's what's going to win you.
And we go right back to that. This is why I said that. The teams that control the clock, running the ball, are the teams that are going to do well in the playoffs. Because we all know the defense gets tougher in those playoffs, and you need to be able to control that clock and run the ball with authority. When you can run the ball, that means that you are dictating the line of scrimmage.
That might be the only weakness Buffalo has is they don't have the best running back. He's good. He's solid. But again, that could be the one area where, again, if you can catch them in the playoffs, it's going to be that aspect of it. Right. I did want one more honorable mention, if you don't mind.
Oh,
just because we didn't have any defensive guys in here. Jeff Okudah, 15 tackles for the Detroit Lions. Again, 15 tackles and a big loss.
Look, he got those tackles because they're getting through the line.
That's what I'm saying. If you think about it, if your secondary leads your team in tackles, and that many, I mean, your whole front 7 was not doing their job at all. So that wasn't very good. But good game. Good game for him. Ron, it's been a pleasure. Week 7, NFL Power Rankings, Sports Unfolded. We are live every Friday night at 6 p.m.
We're almost halfway through the season.
YouTube, isn't it insane? Twitch and Twitter. You can follow again on Rhode Island Broadcasting. Follow us on our social medias. For all of Sports Unfolded, we look forward to continuing to grow with you. We hope you enjoy these. We will be putting out our NBA rankings shortly and shows to follow for that with our main man, Kenny there, our big guy, the big dog. But we're getting excited, man. It's a lot going on in the sports world right now. And you got World Series baseball this Friday, which we will discuss.
I don't want to see any Utah Jazz in that top 5, Don't want to see that. I don't want to see some crappy teams.
The Lakers will not be in there. We know that for a fact.
Yes, we do know that for a fact.
So check that out. Check us out Friday. We got a lot to talk about. World Series baseball. We got a lot going on in New England football.
0-3 for the Lakers.
Get ready. NHL action. I mean, some of these top teams, we're going to be talking about some of that action as well. And we'll cover all other top sports stories that are going on this week. So, Ron, I will see you on Friday. Look forward to that. Thank you for joining us today. And all we ask for in this world is peace.
Have a good night, everyone.